Um, Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome once again to the channel D.C.B. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers at Congregation D.C.B, located in Brooklyn, New York, 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. And as we do weekly, once again, we have Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah, who will be highlighting some of the of last week's portion. Are you going to do Waiyetzei, Nasik?
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to be
pretty much reviewing myself.
Yeah, he's going to review his own self as he taught the portion last week, and he's going to probably bring out some points that he didn't get a chance to bring out during that lesson. So he will be critiquing himself, I guess, in some ways. I'm just kidding. He won't be critiquing. He's just bringing out certain things. So, giving all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe, the God of our ancient forefathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who through him all things are possible, and I give glory unto his high, holy, and revered name. So, Nasik, are you ready to take over?
Okay, thank you very much. All right, not bad. Baruch Hashem, doing good. First of all, I'd like to give praise to the Supreme Telling Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and due respect to the platform that I'm on, the leadership of D.C.B, Chief Prince Ariel, and also Chief Uzal, who always, doing a whole lot of work, more work than most of us brothers be doing these days, even at that age, family man work and everything. I appreciate that time and opportunity, and unselfishness that he share with, the brothers and people that be listening to this channel. And to the other princes, chief brothers and sisters of D.C.B. Oh, and by the way, I like to say I had a great time visiting up there.
Hallelujah.
Last Shabbat, I had a great time. And, we have that open discussion and closed discussions. It's always enlightening.
Hallelujah.
I figure I like to say that. And that's what I miss a lot. And I like to say, Adonai Septati Taku Piyagi Tiateka. The Lord opened down my lips and my mouth should declare that praise. And going on with the this particular sidra, Waiyetzei is and he went out. Yaakov was getting ready to leave the land. I spoke on it in brief last week, and I asked those that might have followed D.C.B channel that I didn't get a chance to conclude that particular sidra. So there'd be some things I'll be bringing out that's a little different in this particular review, or in critiquing myself, and then also bring out some points that I might have definitely have omitted from last time while I was speaking. One of the things I'd like to go back just a little bit and bring out and highlight some things that's kind of unique between the patriots, between Abraham, between Yitzchak, and Yaakov, other than their names. And one of the things is that, we can even include their names as well. Well, Abraham's name was changed by the Creator. We know, Yitzchak, was already named from the beginning. That would be his name. And we can find also that Yaakov's name had been changed, which will be coming up, next week's, this sidra is coming up soon. But one of the things I'd like to bring out is that while we spoke on Yaakov in last week, sidra before, that right. he did deceived his father in a blessing, and though but what's so unique in that, out of all the patriots, he the only one that would bring out, though he told the truth about, it could be a subtle deception with the I am Esau, I am his son, I am Esau, your firstborn. That subtle, I neglected to bring out this point, quite a few times, discussing that, is that he's the only patriot to actually outright lie using the Creator name.
Wow.
you know, and that's, you know, very paramount considering that we are the descendants of Yaakov, you know. So, and I just wanted to bring that out because as a matter of seeking truth, if we go back just when he tricked his father just a little bit, let me see if I can go back just a little bit in reference to that. It said in the previous chapter, 27, and
Chapter 27.
yes, chapter 27.
On what verse?
We're going to take it from, let me see. Um, 17, 18. All right. 18. All right. Let's take it from the 19th verse. Just the 19th verse.
Genesis chapter 27, verse 19. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Yaakov said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, and sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless thee. And Yitzchak said unto his son, how is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because Yehudah thy God sent me good speed.
Hold it right there. Now, his answer there, I just wanted to bring out his outright lie, you know, from the patriarch. And he ascribed his success to the Creator and using the Creator name. I meant to bring it out several times. Even everybody will miss some things, you know. But that's, you know, the show, you know, when we talk about Jacob's trouble, and that's come up later on when he meets Pharaoh about Jacob's trouble, and I enumerate that from time to time in the past, is that we got to be careful, even when we do wrong. How much wrong do we do?
Right.
And that's a paramount wrong when we invoke the Creator's name, you know, in an action that we in our action for our benefit without the Creator actually being involved. And that's, you know, that's pretty much the only lie we read about out of any patriarch and you know, about the three patriarchs in that particular area there. Right out lie. Deception, like I said, different, a little subtlety. You know, you're making a person believe certain things, and you cut your words careful. But this is one point where that is a straight out lie when he said that he used to create a name, and not only used a tetragrammaton, he said, this is how I was able to accomplish that. Not that his mother did this and he went and did his part. So I just thought that was important enough to bring out. Understanding, I was as I was speaking spoke to you earlier about the three patriarchs, when they talk about looking to the rock from which he was hewn and the pit from which he was dug. And I said, you know, and in the prophecy, Isaiah explained that the rock is Abraham.
Right.
And that the pit is Sarah.
Right.
But he said, well, it chooses Abraham, it chooses Sarah. They don't choose Yitzchak, they don't choose Rivka, they don't choose Yaakov or any other matriarchs. So one, and they're all basically from the same family. You know, at one time, they're all from the same family. Mm-hmm. So one of the things is that Abraham had his errors, had his faults. Even the matriarch Sarah had her faults. But it was faults that was able to be rectified with very little consequences. But Yitzchak, we don't read much about his fault, except maybe he loved one son because of, he ate of his venison. And you could extrapolate from that. That's why I said don't take, for judges not to take any bribes, because bribes could blind the eyes. So, but his moral character overall was pretty much above all the other patriarchs, pretty much. Yaakov, on the other hand, he had to develop and rise from the very depths of his character and develop into a spiritual level. So it's good that he's able to develop in this spiritual level, but everybody that could sink that low into the depths don't develop until to that great spiritual level, that great godliness level. So Abraham didn't fall too far. He didn't err too deep. Sarah didn't err too deep. Isaac was on a high level, par level. So much so that it would be difficult to emulate his quality. Rivka quality is not something that a woman should try to emulate to that degree. And now, hence, we can talk about the last patriarch, which is Yaakov Avinu. And the thing is that when we study Torah, we try to, and that's why I mentioned earlier that in Bereshit, you have a whole lot of social family structure, and mindsets that is illuminated throughout the book of Bereshit. And if you want to find out about family problems, if you want to realize how you can solve some family problems or how you can avoid certain family problems, then this is a strong structure within Genesis itself, because it covers so many different facets of family problems within dealing with the patriarchs and also the patriarchs of the tribes themselves, the sibling rivalry and everything. So that being said, also I'd like to bring out another point, which is in dealing with, before we get into Waiyetzei, that Abraham is the only patriarch that didn't bless his son. Which is something to think about, since we talk about the blessings that Yaakov had deceived his father to get. Abraham had never blessed his son. Isaac blessed his sons. Yaakov blessed his sons. The Creator blessed Yitzchak, but never. We know that Abraham gave Yitzchak gifts, but we never read in the scriptures where he actually blessed Yitzchak or Ishmael, for that matter. So those are some takeaways when we look at the difference of the patriarchs in there. Now, and we know that Abraham died when Esau and Yaakov was basically 15 years old. So they offer up reasons why Abraham might have been reluctant to bless, Yitzchak, and left it to the Creator. So we read where the Creator blessed Yitzchak. And but one of the things I like to say, going to that.
I mean, when Esau and Yaakov was 15 years old. Say
that's
Abraham,
that's when Abraham passed.
Yeah. No, but you say Yitzchak and Yaakov. I was just,
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I like to bring out a point in maybe Genesis 26, I think. That's where
Genesis 26.
Yeah, 26. Just a little bit before we go into the portion. Round about the second and third verse.
Genesis 26, verse 2. Hallelujah.
Right. Hallelujah.
And Yehodah appeared unto him and said, Go not down unto Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father. And I'll multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and I'll give unto thy seed all these lands, and by thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be, and by thy seed shall all the nations of the earth bless themselves. Because
Okay, let's stop right there. Okay. All right. Now this is where we first read where the Creator actually encounters. That Yitzchak actually is being encountered by the Creator. First period here, and it's during the famine time. This is the first time we read about a blessing for Yitzchak, and that blessing coming from the Creator directly, not from his father. His father, left him a lot of stuff, but I'm saying like, a blessing, for a spiritual blessing directly. We don't read that in the Tanakh.
Right.
So that's also doing it's a famine throughout all three patriarchs period in time in their life. But one of the things I like to focus on in this particular famine is that the Creator told Yitzchak that you would stay and dwell in the land where I was, where I tell thee. So, who is the best person in the world to tell you where you could sow at in the land and get best products? The Creator. That's what's unique about this. The Creator is the only person, that exists that could tell you where's the best place to become prosperous. And he himself told him to sow in the land and you will be blessed in the land, but only in the places that I show you. So you could say, this look good over here, this got potential, but the Creator would know 100%.
Right.
Even more so, he himself planted a garden and then had the earth bring forth the garden. So now, as a gardener, the all highest, he should know what's the best place for you to be prosperous at in a hard times. So I just figured that was some things to think about, and carry out about, we know the Creator could do anything, create something out of nothing. But in this case here, we read from Genesis, and we still in Bereshit, the book of Bereshit, that he had planted a garden and put the man in the garden, but yet he had trees and stuff and fruit trees and everything growing up before that. It's mentioned about him planting a garden.
Right.
So as a planter himself, if he told Yitzchak, it's a famine in the land, but you could go where I tell you to go at and you're going to be all right, then that would say, hey, been there, done that, not just only because I am that. So those things, I figure is something to consider as we look at the patriarchs and the differences and the uniqueness from each one of them. All right. So now we goes into the book of the 28th chapter, and I'm picking up from the 10th verse. So we just I'm just going to highlight some of the things here because I spoke on it. So I'm really going to focus on the 31st chapter and finish it. But some of the things is we know about Jacob, having a heavenly ladder in a dream. That right. Jacob becomes a member of Laban's family.
Right.
Jacob marries Leah and works a total of 14 years for, in order to acquire Rachel for a wife. Yaakov, flight from Laban. And we also, those are the major things that happens here. But and we talk about types too, which I'm gonna get into in a moment. So we can start from just around a little bit of the first 10th verse from here.
Genesis chapter 28, verse 10. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Yaakov went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran, and he lighted upon the place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took one of the stones of the place and put it under his head and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, Yehudah stood beside him and said, I am Yehudah, the God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Yitzchak. The land whereon thou liest, To thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
Hold on right there. That's good enough right there. All right. Now I'm just going to focus on the 13th verse, and that's a little bit of the 14th. All right. And behold, the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Yitzchak. Now, normally, we know Yitzchak is the immediate father. Abraham is the grandfather.
Right.
So, and normally the Creator don't associate himself with a living human being. It's one of the rare times in Scripture that he said he's the God of the living human being and single him out as an individual, when we know Abraham had already passed.
Right.
So he accomplished what he needed to accomplish, and hence, that's what some of the comments is, like Abraham was, was seen more like a father to Yaakov than it would be to Esau. Because Isaac was more of a father to Esau more than to Yaakov. So those are some of the, viewpoints in reference to, this particular passage being said to God, Abraham, your father, and then it said the God of Yitzchak. And we know Yitzchak is his immediate father.
Right.
All right. So, so it would hint that Yaakov and Abraham had a little bit of a better relationship than Esau and Abraham had. But we know clearly that Esau had a good relationship with his father, Isaac. Right. All right. So another thing is that it was told Isaac that they'd be like the stars, and with Yaakov, they should be like dust for multitude. And now we know stars is bright, brilliant, and upward, and dust is, low. Now this the first, and I mentioned that this is the first patriarch that actually had a dream, which was Yaakov. Read where Abraham had a dream. Read where Yitzchak had a dream. The first guy you read about having a dream is Abimelech. Then the next guy is the patriarch, which is Yaakov having a dream. And in the book of Genesis, like I say, you have a total of 11 dreams mentioned throughout the whole book of Genesis. But what is interesting when we look at this here, in this particular thing, is that though the angels was ascending and descending, it said the Creator was beside him, not beside the angels. So sometimes you might see pictures of angels ascending up to heaven and descending out in heaven, and then you see supposed to be some kind of image of the Creator at the top,
right,
of the ladder. But yet, here we read that the Creator is right near him at this particular point in time, which is different dynamics. So a lot of times people look for the angels more so than they look for the Creator. And you should have the Creator on your side. We have some prayer books. There's always a big thing about in some prayer books where it says, Michael in one place, Raphael in another spot, Gabriel in another spot, Uriah there in the divine presence over my head. And some prayer books they've written like that, and some commentators and rabbis and sages is against that because you rather have the Creator. And that's one of the things that we read about later on in the sin of the golden calf, the egg, is that Moses wanted the Creator to accompany the children of Israel, not to send his angel before them. All right, so this is, it's one thing that you might have, when the Creator sends his angels usually around you to protect you, he's still at a distance. But when you got the Creator beside you, that's why David was able to say that song, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Not your angel, the creator. So I think this a point to bear in mind when we pray and when we look turn to the creator for assistance. Another thing is that the the Shalom and Mount Sinai, that's the only the dream that's not excuse me, not interpreted in scripture. It's the Shalom. And that dream there, all other dreams have an interpretation. This one is not. And excuse me, let me just get some water here. Clear my throat. All right, so that and that's the only dream that's not interpreted. But the word Shalom itself for ladder and the word Sinai have the same numerical value, 130. And when we think about one of the interpretations I use, and I'm gonna share two, but the one I like that most commentaries come up with is that Israel at Mount Sinai, we reached our highest level. And then, when we was able to prepare and listen to the voice of God, just like Moses was listening to the voice of God, then we dropped to our lowest level because we don't want to hear the creator no more. We want to hear Moses, and yet we refuse to wait. And we wound up building the calf. Another interpretation that's going they use is reference to certain angelic beings accompany of Yaakov to the borders of the territory of Israel.
Right.
And then that's their mission is over with. Then they going back, and then the ones that go beyond that coming down to accompany them the rest of the way. But we read that the Creator said, I will be with you, and bring you back. But yet we read about the vow.
Right.
I mean, not a matter of fact, the bargain, and more so than the vow, because usually a vow is when we have a vow that says this is what we're going to do, or this is what we're not going to do.
Right.
That's usually a vow. So, in this prayer, if you give me food to eat, close my back, and bring me back to my Father's house in peace. Then you will be my God, and I'll give you a tenth of all that I've forgotten.
Right.
Now, the tithe, the maaseh, which is the word for tithe, we have three types of tithes that's basically dealing with in our way of life. One is when we talk about we give a tithe to the Levites, and the Levites take that part of their tithe and give a tithe of that to the priest. That's one set of tithes. Another set of tithes is when the owners of their land and property, they gather up the tithe of the land, and they would go and eat it in a holy place down, wherever the Mishkan is or the temple.
Right.
The third tithe is taken from that of the owner's tithe, and that means that the owner of a land and property, on the third and the 6th year, he take a tithe of that and eat it within his gates amongst the poor. It's given to the poor amongst his gates. Mm-hmm. Those are the three types of tithes. Three types of tithes that are used in scriptures. Today we just say, that tithe is tithing your income, your yearly income, whatever the case is, or weekly. So those what most places look at as a tithe. But the tithe that I just described is those that are the ones that's enumerated in the book, and for those reasons. Mm-hmm. All right, but here the first one that come up and talk about I'm gonna give a tithe as a continual thing from what the Creator give him, where we know Abraham gave to Melchizedek after the battle of the 4 kings. Right. So he the first one to do something like that. And Melchizedek brought him wine and bread. All right. So now we're going to skip on down and go into the part where we're just going to speak on just a little bit. When he meets Raquel, In the 29th chapter, he meets Raquel. And we're just going to read a few lines in the 29th chapter.
Chapter 29.
Genesis. Yeah, 29
Genesis.
Genesis.
29. Give me 1 second here, Prince.
Okay.
Trying to get, hold on. There we go. Genesis chapter 29, verse 1.
All right.
Then Yaakov went on his journey and came to the land of the children of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and lo, 3 flocks of sheep lying there by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and the stone upon the well's mouth was great. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone back upon the well's mouth in its place. And Yaakov said unto them, My brethren, whence are ye? And they said, Of Haram are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them,
I'd like to just stop right there for a minute. Laban, the son of Nahor, whereas Laban, the son of Bethuel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, why say the son of Nahor? You know, he identified more with his grandfather than he do with his son, similar to Yaakov, being identified more with Abraham as opposed to Yitzchak.
Mm.
You know, for 2 different reasons. Abraham, was honorable, and Yaakov would develop to be a great honorable individual, whereas Nahor, being the immediate brother to Abraham, is prestigious, as opposed to Bethuel, who's not that prestigious in the area. So Laban identification with Nahor is because Nahor is actually Abraham's brother, and we read already that Abraham's name would be known. He'd be famous. He'd be renowned. So naturally say, that's my relative, that's my kinfolk. So it makes it a unique difference. Any question, Strategic?
No, I didn't have any question.
All right. Then we're gonna look further. So now we know he's up in age when he's going to look for a wife at this particular time.
Right.
All right. But and then he meets Raquel. But they know the man in the place. And sometimes you say, well, Laban is known, but he's known for his infamous, actions.
Infamy.
Yeah, he's a man of infamy. That's a good way to put it.
Right.
All right. So now we're gonna skip on. We know that when he meets his uncle, and what's unique about that is that when he meet his uncle, he tells him all that happened to him. When he tells him all that happened to him in intrigue, he has no money, just a staff over his hand, which he testified to later on in next week's Sidra, pretty much. And he said, well, how do a man go for a wife with no money? No stock.
Good point.
Isaac knew he's going to get a wife.
Right.
And was he in that much of a hurry to flee from his brother Esau? Was it not without anything? And also, they say it's like a 17-day journey from where they at in Beersheba to Haran. 17-day journey. So you mean to tell me that you'll cross over with just a staff in your hand with no provisions? Making your way, winging it. So that's another story in itself. And I don't want to share all the
that's interesting.
But we know that Yitzchak know how his wife was sent for him. Royalty, camels, laden with stuff, with servants looking royal. Here, man, coming over there on foot with just a stick in his hand, staff.
And nothing
talking about I'm gonna get a wife.
And nothing to offer.
All right. So we know that, make a long story short, just be a little brief on it. He winds up working for meeting up with his father-in-law, stayed with him for a month. When he stayed with him for a month of days, then he didn't stay in his father-in-law's house for free. He worked there. Some people come looking for a particular thing, and that's it, lounge, don't offer to do anything. But Yaakov, when he came to his father-in-law's house with no money, hung around, told him what happened, let him know he was a fugitive, and then Laban comes to him and said, "Should you work for me for nothing?" That means he wasn't sitting around for them 30 days in the house.
Right.
And he said, "Tell me, what would be your wages? Because I see you doing a good job already. You ain't just eating. You're not just sleeping. You're not just standing around."
Right.
And you told me everything, even that you're here to get a wife.
Right.
And so, and the wife you want, as opposed to what you're seeing out the two daughters. And so Yaakov said, "I'll work, for your younger daughter." Now, why he just don't specify Raquel? Anybody could be named Raquel. You could just switch daughters' names, just like names been changed in scriptures. If he say, I want to work for Raquel, it could be any Raquel, not necessarily his daughter. So him being a wordsmith himself said, "I'll work for your younger daughter," and that makes it a little bit difficult, for him to put the switcheroo.
Right.
And Laban said, "It's not better that I give it to you than anyone else. Abide with me." So he thought he had a deal as well. And that, and we know as the story went on that he worked the 7 years. But what's unique is that he said that the 7 years that he worked for that it seemed like a few days. Now, how could 7 years for something you want seem like a few days? It only seems short when it's at the end, and never is short in the beginning. Right. It's like, if you really want something, you say, "It's going to take me 7 years to get it." Wow, that's a good ways off. It's a good ways off. Right. But when it's over with, you say, "Oh, it didn't seem that long." You go on a job, you got a year's probation. I said, "Wow, I got a whole 12 months. Then the first couple of months seemed okay. 7 months after that, time tick, tick, tick. Then when it's over with, you say, "Wow, they didn't seem like that bad." But so, and working with Laban, and we know that Laban was a shady character. So he worked those years and seemed like short amount, and he worked honestly for him. So he got duped with Leah. And Leah, like I said, all the matriarchs were going to be barren at one time. All of them was barren in one shot. And it said when the Creator seen that Leah was hated, then he opened up a womb. Right. So just to breeze through this just a little bit, we read that Leah had 4 children right off the bat. Right. What's unique is that one of the children that she had, we're not clear who named it, and that's the third son, Lewi. They say, and he was called Lewi. But we don't read that Yaakov gave it a name. We don't read that Leah gave them the name. So it's always a mystery, who called Lewi first.
But just a quick interjection, Nasik.
Yes.
Lewi means to join, right?
Yes.
So wouldn't we assume that Leah was the one that might have named them Lewi because she wanted, I believe the portion says something to the effect of,
yeah.
Now my husband will be joined
with, be joined to me. Yes.
To me, right.
That, But it say he called his name, not she in Hebrew.
Not she. Okay.
And that's the only one. So it's a korah. It's a karta instead of that.
Okay.
So that's the uniqueness about Lewi. So who called Lewi Lewi?
It's up in limbo.
And and it's, so therefore, the priesthood come out of Lewi. But he's the only one that's not named by, clearly distinguished who actually names him.
Right.
Where all other children, it's clear who's calling their names.
Right.
So I just figured I'd, pass that on as we peruse through a little bit. And then also Leah was the first one to actually give praise to the Creator, say thanks. When she named Yehudah, her fourth son. So, so when we read, now it's not saying that the patriots was not, or anybody else was not thankful, but we don't read before this time where anybody says, I'm going to thank the Creator. And it's not about me. I'm grateful for what I have. Even though it's not what I wanted, I'm grateful for what I have. So that's a lesson in itself. She's grateful because she wanted to have a husband, and it seemed that love is not growing that good. So she was satisfied that she had their children. So and so she named, she focused on what her blessings were, and she's thankful for what she gotten. And that's a lesson for all of us. So we know that I mentioned earlier, just in case people didn't catch the other one, early in the week, I mentioned about why do we have just 4 matriarchs and not 6 matriarchs. And I made mention in reference to that because we always talk about Sarah, Rivka. Then we most times we reverse the order, Raquel and Leah, but we don't say nothing about Bilhah or Zilpah. All right, and all their children become tribes in Israel, and they referred to as the sons of Yaakov, and the tribes of Israel. So that means, though, even though there's a handmaid, and I may mention, I just want to go over just in case people might have missed that, is that one teachings in common is that Bilhah and Milcah, Zilpah, Bilhah and Zilpah was actually concubine wives to Laban, and therefore their status was like a little lower. And Zilpah would have been is younger, and Bilhah is older, and Zilpah should have been Raquel's handmaid as opposed to Bilhah. But we know that when all the women had children, it said they conceived and bear. And Zilpah herself, she just bare. You never read where it says she conceived. So that means she always looked at, normal, but yes, she carried child. So she had, and some women don't look too pregnant when they're pregnant. And hence with Zilpah. Another, when Bilhah, another interesting point too, as I go through this here, is that when we look at all the women, that's involved in the nation of Israel, talking about Sarah, talking about Rivka, you're talking about, Leah, you talk about Zilpah, Bilhah, Raquel's the only one that don't have a hey in her name. The letter hey. And yet one of the last to have children. So Bilhah herself had the letter hey twice in her name, which was Raquel's handmaid. That does some interesting things. They got a lot of comments on that. And Abraham, when his name was changed, Ahay was added to his name. Ahay was added to Sarah's name. And that's when she conceived Isaac under the name of Sarah. So, it just, some things that, to take a look at as you go along. All right. So now we know that we enter the 31st chapter. I'm going to breeze through and go to the 31st chapter because it's kind of long.
Chapter 31?
Yes.
All right. Let me open it up. Genesis chapter 31, verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Yaakov have taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's have he gotten all this wealth. And Yaakov beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not towards him as before time. And Yehodah said unto Yaakov, return unto the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Yaakov sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not towards me as before time, but the God of my father hath been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father.
All right, so we're going to stop right there. All right. One, we know he had worked for the flock. You know, he did 14 years, you know, for the woman he actually wanted. Or he got it, you know, at the end, 7 years and 1 week. So, so a lot of times when they say he worked 7 years for Leah, 7 years for Rachel, we usually say he didn't work any year for Leah, because that wasn't his intention, but that was the outcome. You know, that's all his years was pressed for Rachel.
Rachel.
All right. So he just, you know, got Leah in the bargaining. But one of the things that also when he was ready to leave, what's interesting, all 12 children, you know, except for Benjamin, the 11 boys and the 1 daughter was all born within that 7-year period.
Right.
You know, so the time that so after he got married, he had all 11 of the kids within that 7-year period, about 12 counting the daughter.
Right.
And then he was ready to leave then, but then the deal was struck out about the cattle. So and in that part of the region, you don't get spotted streak cattle in that part of the region. You get solid colored cattle. So, you know, he had another dream that we read about later on, that the angel told him to look and do you know, what kind of cattle is coming out. But one of the things that's interesting is that he didn't depend on the dream. So when I was talking, I spoke earlier that normally when people have visions and dreams, dreams bears interpretation and need to be, you know, and it's be obscure sometimes. When the prophets come, they have a vision most of the time. So they can explain what the Creator say. It's be a lot clearer, since they ain't getting the direct word of mouth like Moshe Rabbeinu and like we did as people. So, and that's why, you know, when reading the book of Numbers, said, if it's a prophet, or, you know, I mean, if I make myself known to anybody, speak to anybody, it's through a vision or a dream, but not so with my servant Moses. All right, so that makes a unique difference there. All right, so now when things get bad and you can see it for yourself, then the Creator would tell you it's time to go. So as long as things grew before us in America, really nice and apple peachy cream for America, we don't want to go if it was told to go. I said, why leave? All this good luxury. So it's when things get bad and the Creator, and you could see it for yourself, it's time to move, then the Creator would speak to you.
Right.
You know, so here it is. Yaakov stayed, he went there for a wife. He knows family ain't broke.
Right.
And you get some kind of wages even working.
Right.
But the thing is that he wanted more. That's the Yaakov. He wanted more. And then the Creator said he was with him all the time. All right. But let's pick it up from the next verse.
Verse 7. And your father have mocked me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me.
Ain't that something? Yaakov saying, look, there's somebody stealing from you, robbing you, tricking you. And you say, but he ain't doing no real damage. That means that you ascribe your greatness and survival to the Creator. Because how could a guy change your wages and diminish, and he ain't changing for the good, changes for the bad, the worst.
Right.
And do everything that mess you up and still can't hurt you. You become impervious to it and surviving off it. He said, not only because the Creator, and the Creator let them know that he realized that it wasn't for God, your father did me in. He found somebody that was better qualified in the game than he was.
Right.
He was a novice, and Laban was the master.
Right.
When it comes down to, deception. All right, read a little bit further.
Verse 8. If he said thus, the speckle shall be thy wages, then all the flock bore speckle. And if he said thus, the streak shall be thy wages, then bore all the flock streak. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the flock conceived, that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the he-goats which leap upon the flock were streaked, speckled, and gristled. And the angel of God said unto me in the dream, Jacob, and I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes and see, all the he-goats which leaped upon the flock are streaked, speckled, and gristled, for I have seen all that Laban doeth thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou didst anoint a pillar, where thou didst vow a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy nativity.
All right there. All right, the Creator said, look here, I'm reminding you of what you said. But that's 20 years ago. 20 plus years ago. You still haven't done what you're supposed to do.
Right.
You still hanging around. All right. And I haven't left you. And we don't need talking to you too that much, but I haven't left you.
Right.
And so the Creator kept his side, even though Yaakov said what he said, then. All right. And he said, return to the land of thy nativity. All right. All right. And so he telling them what the Creator had told him. So in other words, this usually if a brother's on a mission, and it's mainly like brothers in leadership and stuff like that, if they're on a mission, then normally your wife, a significant other, should always be on that mission with you. When they're not pulling for you, helping you, supporting you in your mission, then you got problems. You got problems. So the thing is that Yaakov said, this was my mission. I've been here longer than I needed to be here. And my God told me to go back. And I'm talking to y'all privately because we don't want nobody else in this conversation but us in this conversation. So it's a private conversation going on between him and his wife in the field, away from, prying eyes and nosy ears.
Right.
So that's, so that's normally the mission was his. The women's been following his mission, or he had to take that alone. But he went there for a particular purpose. And how it turned out.
Verse 14. Right. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not accounted by him strangers? For he hath sold us, and have also quite devoured our price.
Ain't that something? Just say, look here. He lived large off of us. There's nothing left for us here. He got prosperous off of us. And now also Laban got sons.
Right.
So why do he say, they have sold us and he got sons now? You don't read about him having sons before Yaakov got there.
Right.
So now with sons, we know even in our tradition who inherit property. The sons. The women got to live on the property till they get married. But it's actually all property and everything that's there is for the sons. If Yaakov got most of the property, then naturally they might well go with their husband because that's where the property at.
Right.
Yeah. So we have a law that, with Zelophehad's daughters years later in the wilderness about inheritance.
Right.
So So and they said anything that they had prior to Yaakov coming, their father had used that up already, got rid of it, lost that.
Right.
However he lost it.
Right.
Right. All right. Let's read a little bit more. We'll try to speed
Verse
through this a little
16.
bit. All right.
For all the riches which God hath taken away from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. Then Yaakov rose up.
All right. So now they're claiming stake in Yaakov's house because they got children. They got son. So I said, whatever they took, whatever God took from the father for them, that's meant for them. So it's a subtle mindset still because they're from that part of the world.
Right.
So I don't want people to lose sight of the mindset because they are from the house of Laban.
Right.
In Bethuel. So that side of the world, they have a certain type of legislation and structure and customs that went down. So they had to say, look at what you got, that belongs to us and our children now.
Right.
We ain't got nothing over there. But that's to be elaborated a lot more in another time. All right, Tumshi.
Verse 17. Then Yaakov rose up and set his sons and his wives upon the camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all his substance which he had gathered, and the cattle the cattle of his getting which he had gathered in Padan Aram, to go to Yitzchak his father unto the land of Canaan. Now Laban was gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole the teraphim that were her father's. And Yaakov outwitted Laban and the Aramean, and that he told him not that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and set his face towards the mountain of Gilead.
All right. What's interesting here is that didn't the daughter say there's nothing else left in my father's house? But yet Rachel found something.
She found something.
You know what I mean? Worth taking. Worth taking. And that's idols. But earlier they said, well, nothing left. Everything you have is our children. And our father has squandered everything. So now, why would Rachel take these idols? So they offer a couple of reasons. One of the reasons they try to say, well, that she wanted to prevent her father from still worshiping these idols. That's number one. The second reason they try to push out is that not only that they try to stop him from worshiping these idols, the next reason is that in the East, in that part of the world, if you had the family idols that they worship, it was almost like a deed to the property. So anybody that study the manuscript of certain Hammurabi code and stuff like that,
right,
of that particular region, if you had the family idols, you actually had the deeds to the property. So that made it a serious offense when she stole it. And you say, why would she be the one to steal it and not Leah? Which, at the time of the father going to shear sheep, which is supposed to be a happy occasion. All right. And then Yaakov himself would say, and Yaakov outwitted Laban the Aramean, and that he told him not that he fled. So he stole away secretly.
Right.
All right. And then the 22nd verse, it says,
and it was told Laban on the third day that Yaakov was fled. And he took his brethren with him, and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountain of Gilead.
All right there. Now, Laban, we know, those that read it straight through, he separated himself 3 days away from Yaakov. That's a good distance, 3 ways with,
from Laban.
From Laban. All right, yeah. So Laban separated himself cut out the sheep that had, that be questionable. He took all that, so Yaakov would start off fresh and separate himself 3 days' journey from each other. So, we don't get no stray from his side.
Right.
And one of the things that when we look at is that Laban traveled 7 days to catch up with Yaakov. And, and it said that you travel 7 days distance in 1 day.
Right.
So I'm making myself clear. 7 days distance in 1 day.
He drove them horses.
Yeah, because he ain't taking no livestock, no cattle with him. He's just taking troops.
Right.
A little army with him.
Right.
That's what he's taking. A little small army with him. And Yaakov got servants and he got cattle that he got to, graze and move. He can't charge. He got to move at a certain pace. So that 6 days difference, Laban made up, 1 day is a 7-day journey. Because by the time he's 3 days away and he find out a day, then he say, saddle up, let's go. And caught him up in the mountains. So that means he's riding hard, riding real hard. When somebody ride that hard, thinking you there, and all the stuff is gone, then you got problems.
Right.
Yeah, you got problems.
Right.
Read a little bit more.
Verse 24. And God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream of the night, and said unto him, take heed to thyself that thou speak not to Yaakov either good or bad. And Laban came up with Yaakov now. Yaakov had pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountain of Gilead. And Laban said to Yaakov, what hast thou done that thou hast outwitted me and carried away my daughters as though captives of the sword?
I say, now, it's hard for a trickster to say I've been gamed. You know what I mean? Right. Laban said, look here, you out-slicked me that time, boy. I didn't think you'd do something like that.
Right.
I thought I had you locked in.
Right.
You got my daughters, you got livestock, it's a long ways back where you need to go.
Right.
I didn't think I need to watch. You've been with me too long. You've been with me for 20 years. I didn't think I had to look over my shoulder.
Right, right.
I'm the one that's doing all the underhanded stuff.
Right.
So, and usually a gamer can't see when somebody gaming him.
Don't like to be game.
And they don't like to be game because they be focusing on gaming. That's what they do.
Right.
Say, no, you can't do that with me.
Right.
But Laban admitted. And it said, and carried my daughters with the sword. And the 27th verse, it said,
wherefore didst thou flee secretly and outwit me, and didst not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth and with songs and with tabret and with harp?
Ain't that something? All right. So he said, look, I'd have had a party for you. Sent you off. Now, you know what I mean? But we know, Yaakov know the first party that he had was a rough one.
Right.
You know what I mean? The wedding banquet that he had there with Leah.
Right.
Next thing you know, I mean, he thought it was Raquel, it was wound up being Leah.
Right.
So party is not the thing he need to be at with Laban.
Not at all.
And the Creator came to him and said, don't speak neither good or bad to him. And in the 28th verse, it said,
28th verse, it reads, and didst not suffer me to kiss my sons and my daughters, now hast thou done foolishly.
Hold on right there. He said, you done foolishly. Imagine him telling you, you stupid.
Yeah.
I'm outwitted. You outwitted me, but yet you're stupid.
Right.
Because of all this, I could have did all this here for you.
Right.
I'd have set you up. I'd have made you great. I'd have made you somebody.
Right.
And
showed who he was.
And what people don't realize is that your grandchildren by your daughter is not really your children. Your grandchildren by your sons are your children. So hence, those children that Yaakov had through Leah, Rachel, Zilpah, and Bilhah was Yaakov's children. Now I'd like to bring this out. We have a law that if a man serve you and you give him a wife, and when his time is up, because he came here by himself, he leave by himself.
That's what it says.
If he had children, you know what I mean, them children belong to the master. you see certain laws that come up and evoke from antiquity from here.
Right.
And how certain things be rectified. So if you say, I love my wife and my children, and I will not leave, then he bore a hole through his ear, and he was served to the Yovel.
Right.
You know, and that's only with a Hebrew. Now, Yaakov born in Canaan, but yet he's an Aramean.
Right.
You know, he's born in Canaan, but he's Aramean. So, so our law is only for one of your own kind. You know what I mean? That will lead. If you're from another nation, then that'd be part of the family inheritance. He's, the servant John, being passed down for generations. All his kids belong to this household.
Right.
Like Eliezer of Damascus belonged to Abraham's household.
Right.
So now we could see and analyze when we get to the laws that Moshe brings down about servants and about servant. We could see why Laban would say certain things about my children, my daughters, the children of mine, and I could take everything because we have a law that would support that from our perspective.
Right.
But generally speaking, if your daughter have kids, they belong to somebody else's household. If your son have kids, they belong to your household. All right. Because it's a patriarchal system. All right. Let's go just a little bit more.
Verse 29.
Yeah.
It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spoke unto me yesternight, saying, take heed to thyself that thou speak not to Yaakov either good or bad. And now that thou art surely gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, wherefore hast thou stolen my gods?
Hold right there. Now, all right, two things that I'm bringing out. We're going to skip down most of the chapters here. One, that verse that he says here is unique. He said, I just got to look at that one. Take heed to thyself that I did not speak Yaakov either good or bad, now that thou art surely gone. Mm-hmm. All right. But one of the things I like even further says, but the God of your father spoke unto me yesternight. How he know that's the God of his father? That's why I like to know that you had this dream and you complain about your idol gods. So, and yet you don't realize, hey, this ain't a God that I work with. This is a God speaking on your behalf, because there ain't a God I dealt with before.
Right.
But it's a God speaking on your behalf. So therefore, if this God speaking on your behalf, it must be your God, because it ain't no God of mine. Right. Telling me not to do this and don't do that. So it's interesting that she stole his gods, his idol gods, and yet he have a dream, and the true and living God come to him in a dream.
Right.
And tell him to speak neither good nor bad. And shake him up. But he didn't shake him up enough where he didn't stop his pursuit. He said, don't speak neither good nor bad. That means I can still come up and go forward. Unlike Bilam, I can still move ahead. And it's a testimony to Yaakov too, that his God still was with him and protecting him. Because Laban giving a testimony to Yaakov saying, your God told me something. The God of your father.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, it was unique. It never said Yaakov's God. It said the God of thy father. So that means that his father had some Jews and had a relationship. Laban recognized that, and then after that, he told him straight up that he used another pretense. I still have a right to come after you because my gods are stolen, my idols.
Right.
So it was a theft going on. But one of the things that I like to look at if you're talking to a true and living God in a dream, how do somebody steal your gods if they have any power? It seems like, just that dream that hit you, that you would say, oh, I believe, I'm a believer, I'm a believer, I'm a believer.
Right, right.
But yet, you still pursuing for some gods that can't say, we over here, we over here, we over here.
Right,
You know what
right.
I mean? Or this is going down. You in a dream state and get some awareness, and in your awake state, you can't get no awareness from your gods. So that shows the difference in idol worshiping as opposed to the worshiping the true and living God and the power that's in it. And it's why we're held to such a high accountability when we sink down to idol worshiping. And then Yaakov answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, lest thou shouldest take thy daughters from me by force, with whomsoever thou findest thy gods.
He shall not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Yaakov knew not that Rachel had stolen them.
Okay. And that's something. He pronounced a death sentence off the top.
Right.
Realizing how serious this atrocity is.
Right.
But yet, he know that they're not real gods. So now, on theft alone, is it worthy to be put to death for theft of something that's not really an inanimated object?
Right.
If you stole an item, you'd be sold for your death, or you pay for it. Pay the principal on top of that. But yet, he made it such a drastic thing because he realized it's supposed to be the inheritance of of that particular region. He pronounced a death sentence on whoever had it.
Right.
Not knowing. And, they always say, well, the prediction came true with Raquel. That's some commentaries say,
right.
That he made that prediction there. But we know the story that he searched, thoroughly. And then when he searched thoroughly, he didn't find it. Then Raquel had hid it under a saddle that she was riding on, and claimed to be after the manner of women, which would be, that time of the month. And which is interesting is that during that particular time when a woman's in that time of the month or period, most people of the East stay away from her.
Separation.
Yeah, they have a serious separation that they need her. That's real serious separation. So much so that they don't even talk. Once she said that she can't rise because of the man a woman is upon her, Laban didn't say another word to her. They don't even talk. In some cultures, they don't even try to walk in the same footsteps.
Right.
That's how serious they take that particular time of the month that a woman is under. So that's something to consider. That even Laban recognized that, because he traveled that hard, that great a distance to procure something that's valuable to him. Right. And he said, and he just stepped away without examining that. Yet he went checking from tent to tent in every place.
Right. So,
and that means the servant tents, everybody's tent. Right. With his people. And he let that go simply because of that. And that's something, you say, well, didn't she have Joseph's close by there? I mean, Benjamin close behind that? We wonder about that because she died on the way sometime later. But when they look, it says, let not my Lord be angry, for I cannot rise up before thee, and the man of woman is upon me. And he searched, but he found not the teraphim. And Yaakov was wroth and strove with Laban. Now he flexing. He decided to flex right now at this point. All right. Then let's go to the 38th verse.
Verse 38 reads, These 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of thy flocks have I not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I brought not unto thee. I bore the loss of it, and my hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from mine eyes.
Okay, hold right there. He said, I didn't get no decent sleep. I'm up there watching your stuff all night, and I lost a couple, but I bear the cost.
Right.
All right. A shepherd is not liable for an animal torn by beasts, and he's definitely not liable to be watching the animal if you put them up safely at night for what is taken out at night.
Right.
But Yaakov said, if the beast tore it, I paid for it. If they were stolen or whatever by night, I still paid for it.
I took the loss.
So that means right then and there that he worked diligently and honestly with Laban, who was a scrupulous. But yeah, but he wasn't as honest with with certain family members on the other side. So that made it this shows the development of our father Yaakov at this particular time. That being with Laban, let him see that they ain't the type of guy he need to be.
Right.
Just from that particular period, and then we know they made a covenant. The 44th verse it says.
Verse 44 reads, and now come, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Yaakov took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Yaakov said unto his brethren, gather stones, and they took stones and made a heap, and they did eat there by the heap. And Laban called it Yehudah Sahaduta, but Yaakov called it Galid.
All right. So that means Laban used his language and referred to it in the term he wanted it to be in return. So now it teaches you a valuable lesson. A person don't have to have the same religion as you have to make an agreement and take an oath. That's one lesson you learn from here.
Right.
That a guy can have a different belief system from yours. And you can have an honorable oath. Now, according to tradition, they say the first one to break this oath is Bilam, who's supposed to be a descendant of Laban himself, because he's from that region over there.
Right.
And he came a long ways to curse Israel. So when we read the story of Bilam, which is a story that got no one interpretation of Balak, when we read the story about the sister Balak, and he had the prophet and the soothsayer Bill on him, and it has no interpretation. They say he's from that same region over there. He's supposed to be a descendant of Laban, from one of his children, his sons.
Right.
And he came over to curse Israel, almost reminiscent of Amalek coming after Israel. So is Bilam coming after Israel. Later on in history, and being the descendants of two major adversaries. All right, so we're going to jump down to finish 49. We're going to stop there around 49.
Verse 49, and it reads, and Mizpah, for he said, Yehovah watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. And if thou shalt afflict my daughters, and if thou shalt take wives beside my daughters, no man being with us, see God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Yaakov, behold, this heap, and behold, the pillar which I have set up betwixt me and thee. This heap be witness, and the pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm.
Okay, hold right there. All right, and then the last verse is the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their fathers, judge between us. And Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Yitzchak, and Yaakov offered a sacrifice in the mountains and called his brothers to eat bread, and they did eat and tarry all night in the mountains. Now, I'm gonna stop there. There's only a few more verses anyway, but I'm gonna stop there. But one of the things I like to bring out in this here is that not only they made a pact, but one of the pacts that's unique is that Laban said, look at part of your oath is that you don't take no more wives other than the ones I got. You got right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how fine they look in the future. I don't care what you think about them, about these women that you got right now, how much you hate them. You can never get rid of them. You know, they got to die on you. You know, that's something. To tell you that, you know, in a world where you have polygamy going on, they can say, I don't want, you know, you can't have no more wives besides mine, the ones my daughters. You know, so, and after all the stuff you went through, and then you said, God judged between me and you that no, we won't pass over to do harm. Now, we got another incident too. I want to bring out, bring out too in our history, and I'll probably speak on it more in length in next Sidra or so when Raquel pass on. But we know that Bill came across to harm us.
Right.
We know also that we you know when you know different period Nebuchadnezzar came across to harm us, and we wound up going back into Syria as servants. Mm-hmm. And you know, one of the things that teach us about being in that part of the world is that anytime Israelites go in that part of the world, they're gonna be some servants. If they stay put in their land, they're gonna be free. Because when we went to Babylon, we wound up being slaves over there.
Right.
And servants. Yaakov went over there, he was a servant. Right. In the land, he was somebody. You know. So you know, I hope you got those that be listening got something out of what I said, and any mistakes with my own. You know, just try to highlight. I know it's pretty long, the Sidra, but there's a lot of interesting points, and I still omit quite a few that you know, just for time's sake, because you won't be able to get everything out in every lesson. And one of the things that's a blessing is that it's a blessing to be able to forget. And one of the things I say it's a blessing to forget is because if we didn't have the blessing to forget, now I know one brother said you're going to talk about forgetfulness, you know, mentioned in the past, several brothers mentioned in the past that forgetfulness is a curse, and they want to speak on it. But for being able to forget is a blessing, you know, and being able to forget everything can be a curse. But being able to have the power to forget is a blessing. You forget certain pains you have in life, but more so, you forget certain points in Torah. And therefore, to go back and read and study it again makes it interesting, because you forgot this or you forgot that. So when you read the book over again, you know, you are more interested and able to learn something new. But if you never forget anything, then you never learn anything new by going over something. So we need to go, if we got to go over the book every year and rehearse this every year, that means that the power of forgetfulness allow us to develop further on what we did last year. So with that being said, I hope everybody got something out of what I said. And like I said, any mistakes were my own. And, you know, thank Chief Uzel and the Brotherhood and D.C.B channel, you know, for this opportunity. And, you know, I hope everybody, you know, appreciate, you know, what y'all doing.
Hallelujah.
And an early Shabbat Shalom.
Early Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Nasik.
All right, shalom.